Alright, and we're back for Game 3 of the series between Dawn and Revolution. Game 2 going to Dawn in just under half an hour, and a bit of a surprising concede when it came out, actually. Felt like they... sorry. Might have had a little bit more life in them on the Revolution side than it seemed that they displayed. Especially considering in Game 1 they managed to pull back a very dispiriting early game, so... thought it was odd. Either way, Game 3 well underway here as we have the first stage of bans coming through. Meraxis, Behemoth, Midas, and Ophelia being taken out. So, yeah, Platycris suggesting that there might be some respect going on there, and not a bad theory, as he's had two good performances on Ophelia so far, and we've seen the consistent bans on Strength Initiators from both sides. Midas being played last game, I believe, by Revolution. I don't remember now. It's whatever.
Shadowblade.
You picked my Hellborn 92% win? Yeah, sure. Sure, Platty. I don't know if that's true at all. Maybe it's like pub stats or something he's talking about, but I always assume that it's like, you know, actual stats because it's me. Either way, gonna start the draft off with Moira and Ravener on the Legion side, so we're looking at a support and another Ravener pick. This time, I would assume, once again, in the short lane carry role, worked well for Dawn last game. Might work well for them this game, too. Or at least that's what they're hoping. And Legion side, or so the Hellborn side of Revolution, going for the pretty similar strategy that they had in Game 1 as well, figuring that the Hellbringer and Shadowblade got them a victory then. Maybe it can do the same this time around. So we're basically looking at both teams going, let's pick the lineup from the game that we won, and then see how that does, which I gotta say makes a fair degree of sense. And we're gonna see the Revenant picked up here as well. I believe it was banned in Game 1, either in the initial banning or the second banning stage, but obviously an annoying hero to deal with, and one that could prevent Ravener from having a portal key if he can use the Essence Shroud with effectiveness, and obviously that would be pretty significantly advantageous if he can avoid picking up an item that's not that inexpensive and not that expensive, sort of in middle ground, but also takes up a pretty valuable item slot. So obviously it's going to require some significant coordination, but I believe that they can do it. And Hellborn are going to finish off the first stage of the draft with the Parasite, so go on the jungle option here. Always like to see that. And Platycris, who played the Ophelia in both Game 1 and Game 2, may be stuck on second support here, so we'll see how he handles that if it ends up being the case. He's done well enough on the Ophelia that I'm thinking, I don't know, he should be generally a good jungle player. He's generally a good player, so should be fine in the second support role as well. So, Bramble being the first ban in the second banning stage. I'm not particularly surprised to see that. Looking at stuff that both teams need, the Hellborn team are mostly lacking some sort of, I guess, full lockdown. We have Hellbringer, who can do a solid job of initiating team fights, although I'm not sure if you want to do that. I feel like Malphus is better used as a counter-initiate tool as opposed to a go-in and let's have everything die type tool. It's better to be like, all right, now we're going to stop you from trying to jump us, and then we're going to counter you. So you see the soft pick of the far right there. I actually think that would be a really good pick because it would not only allow them a primary initiation tool, but it would also give them something to do to prevent people from being able to get away a little bit. Right now we're looking at 0 stuns and only a couple of slows and then a fear effect from Hellbringer, and you compare that to Legion side, who have 2 stuns in their first 3 picks already, plus the potential of slow from Revenant. And in that regard, I'm feeling a little more confident in Legion side's draft. On the other hand, they don't have much initiation presence either, unless you want to count the Ravener, which I think is a little bit dicey at best. And we probably have 2 supports in Moira and Revenant. Obviously, Revenant could still be played as a core in some manner, but it would be expected, I think, to see that picked up as the second support. So we'll see where they go with it, but either way, I'm feeling like they need some sort of mid-presence and probably a suicide as well in their last 2 picks. Sorry, I'm going to turn my microphone off so I can cough a whole lot. Alright, that should be better. Hopefully that didn't create any weirdness or strange noises, but yeah. Anyway, apparently there were some respect bans in the second stage of banning, as the Bramble was followed by Pharaoh and Kraken, so the right click of Pharaoh that Revolution were perhaps hoping to pick up at least, will not be allowed, as the Legion side has quite rightly realized they're probably looking for some sort of initiation presence. And Hellborn going to take out the Magmas, the Switchblade, and the Devourer, so a lot of strength initiators being taken across the board, and the secondary carry of Swiftblade is also eliminated, as the guys on Dawn have shown that they like to play the dual carry lineups, and they will be able to do that once again, this time with the Madman in that presumably suicide role, but sort of transitioning into a semi-core and potentially even a carry if the farm is there for him. Wouldn't be bad at all, and I like those types of lineups that don't rely on a single hero getting ridiculous amounts of farm and then putting the entire team on his back and carrying, and then expecting everybody else to just do CC type stuff or that sort of thing. It seems to be the Revolution playstyle, but I'm slightly preferring the Dawn strategy of let's get at least 2 heroes that can actually do something if they're given farm, and it will be the Cthulhu Elephant picked up here. That's probably going to be a jungle elephant. Yeah, it's being swapped to Platycrus here, so yeah, looks like Revenant's going to be played in the middle lane, and Sactamento will be picking up the Moira once again. Madman presumably be played in the long lane, and it's going to be a short lane Ravener, and that's not a bad situation. It does mean that their lanes are somewhat transparent, though, because you really don't expect. I mean, the biggest thing they could do at this point would potentially be to run the aggressive jungle Cthulhu Elephant to try to mess with the Parasite and run Ravener and Moira in the long lane and put Madman in the short lane, which actually, now that I'm thinking about it, is what I expect them to do. It's going to be able to slow down Parasite a hell of a lot. Obviously, Cthulhu Elephant can just walk up to Parasite and say, I'm going to eat this creep that you're in now, so good luck farming, idiot. And then he's very annoyed. But I think Revolution could potentially counter that with an aggressive pseudo tri-lane of their own. If not, just some decent wards in their own jungle would prevent that from being that big an issue for the Parasite, and should make things in general not a problem for that team. So Blitz and Dead will be their last 2 picks, as Blitz did well in Game 1. Hopefully they're clearly looking to replicate that success. In fact, both teams are really just picking lineups that look like, as I said before, largely substantially similar to, those are 2 words that mean the same thing, to their victories, except for the Deadwood. I think that was not picked up in the Revolution victory. Either way, solid hero, and does fulfill a lot of the lockdown type stuff that I was looking for from them. I'm still a little bit concerned about the lack of stuns in general. Obviously, you have the face punch, the Falcon punch from Deadwood, but that's an ultimate, and you don't want to be using that willy-nilly. You probably also won't be able to use it more than once in a team fight, so you can't necessarily expect it to be a typical easy-to-blow CC-type metric. You gotta, save it for when it's going to be most useful, and that may limit your opportunities somewhat. Blitz also does have a stun, of course, and that's going to be more consistent. On the other hand, he's a support, so you wouldn't expect him to get the stun off multiple times in a fight, just because he's probably going to get blown up before it comes back off of cooldown, unless he's very good with his positioning, or this team is very good at protecting him, and I don't see a lot of heals or like that type of stuff. He's got the quicken to get himself away if possible, but in general, there might be a lot of deaths for the Blitz in this game, once again, as there's a lot of stuns that really prevent him from being able to utilize additional move speed, and he is just generally very squishy, of course, so I wouldn't be surprised if he dies a hell of a lot in this game. And really, Hellbringer being the same situation as we saw in that Game 1, Pexu did die a lot, and it is now STST playing it, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Hellbringer picked off multiple times. But looks like they will run the aggressive pseudo tri-lane here, and it is in fact going to be the defensive pseudo tri-lane from the Legion team, so I don't know if they're anticipating this from the Hellborn side, or if they're just doing it to make sure that Ravener gets strong farm, and because they want to protect Cthulhu Elephant's jungle a fair bit as well. They could also be thinking that whoever they send to the suicide role is not going to be that good, as Deadwood is really the only suicide option that the Hellborn team have, so, and he's not really a particularly good suicide hero. We've seen Zane play it in the suicide role a little bit before, but in my opinion hasn't done that well. I just don't think he's well suited for that role, to be honest, unless it's a 1v1, in which case Deadwood is fine, because Deadwood is good in any 1v1 with his oak bolt thing, where he picks up a log. So I'm guessing the Legion side saw this coming, because really that's the only way their lanes could have realistically played out, and you see that right off the bat. Cthulhu Elephant's like, haha. Yeah, that's not very effective, Pexu. You gotta see that coming, man. Even if he takes the creep before you get into it, like, what are you gonna do? Get into the Vagabond? You don't want to do that right off the bat. It's a bit of a waste of your leech. So, looks like he'll be heading back to his own jungle to get some farm, and this is gonna be changed up a little bit. Blitz looks like he's gonna be staying in this bottom lane. Hellbringer has ported to the top. Or sorry, no, Deadwood and Shadowblader in the top lane. Basic Extractor was their suicide player, at least in game 1. Fizzmaestro is their hard support player, so I'm not really sure what's going on here. Yeah, okay, they're going to transition Deadwood in the bottom lane, and this looks like it's going to be a dual lane Deadwood and Blitz going up against the Moira and Ravener. Moira getting a little bit saucy there with the auto attacks onto Blitz, figuring that he did not have any backup, didn't realize that Deadwood was coming in, so it will be the top Shadowblade by himself going up against the Suicide Madman. Do generally expect Shadowblade to win that matchup, especially with the Parasite in the jungle who has gank potential. And in the bottom lane here, it's definitely be Deadwood, and we'll see if the Blitz chooses to stay or chooses to rotate, especially considering the fact that he's halfway to middle lane, maybe even a little bit more. Probably looking at a rotation right here, and maybe even an attempt on Bloodlust in the middle lane, as he's going to eat a stun on the, or dot on the Revenant, and a few more auto attacks could be really bad. Blitz looking for the stun right there, and yeah, he'll find it, so this is going to be a Bloodlust right here, as might have a counter kill though. A lot of tower damage being taken by Blitz, who will take the health bot, and that probably saved his life because you looked at how much health he's got, and pretty unlikely that he was not going to die right there. In the bottom lane, looks like Charizard Harkon will connect into Deadwood as I see him coming through into the ball lightning, and this is definitely going to be a death for Deadwood, and this is more or less why I think Deadwood does not work very well in the suicide role. He's got boots, and he's still got 663 health, which is pretty solid considering he has no strength boosting items or anything like that, so he's not that, squishy, but the clear cutting early on is just not a particularly effective getaway mechanism, and his Rotten Grasp can often be very difficult to hit. So if you miss that and you get stunned, like this, 3 stun lane has the potential to do, then you could be in a lot of trouble. Top lane, Madman's going to eat some damage. We'll just take a health potion and be just fine, though. As Shadowblade's trying to box him out of lane and is doing a decent job of that 271 gold per minute right now. That's the second highest on his team, as the Bloodlust for STST in the middle helped him out a lot. Speaking of middle, Blitz nearly dying. And Hellbringer will just pop a regen rune right there, as the Revenant also takes a health potion. Everybody's trying to stay as healthy as possible, of course, because with Blitz in the game, the potential for ganks is definitely strong. Demon Strike missing right there, as that is not an easy ability to hit either. In fact, generally very difficult. Top lane, Shadowblade nearly dying. We're going to see some TP support for him right here. And Madman, the fact that Shadowblade's sticking around might indicate to you that things are going to go a little strangely right here. He does still have the stock available, of course, and he's got the bottle, so he's going to sip that, and he's probably not going to be in real danger, but putting some good damage into Shadowblade and farming at 260 GPM, and that's it's really good performance here for him in the suicide role. Overall farm, of course, Hellbringer does lead the way, mostly thanks to that Bloodlust, but Ravener's right behind him, and the Madman and Shadowblade are pretty much equal in that top lane, so things looking pretty solid for Dawn early on. If it weren't for the Revenant getting caught out and killed in the middle lane, things look very good for them, but of course, Hellbringer is absolutely manhandling him here. And it doesn't look like it'll be changing anytime soon, as Hellbringer can mostly just spam that dot and be annoying as all get out. Revenant's kind of looking for something. We'll be able to slow down the Hellbringer, but he's not getting anywhere close to a kill with this, as Cthulhu's angle just wasn't there. Hellbringer playing far too safe, so STST with a very nice performance so far here in this middle lane, and we'll see if his early game is definitely doing better than Pexu did in the first game in this series. We'll see if he can transition the way that Pexu did and make himself an extremely useful hero, or if he'll fall off. Either way, this Deadwood in the bottom lane just is not getting much, and I think we're actually top lane. Oh, Madman gonna run away. He'll be fine. I think we're getting to the point in this bottom lane where Deadwood basically needs to just not be here anymore. He's not getting levels. He's got 137 XPM. There's better things you can be doing with your time, man. Stack some Ancients. Shadowblade will take them, especially if he goes Thunderclap build that he went for last time. Jungle with Parasite. Like, do anything. Roam around, look for ganks, but you're just not getting much here. So nobody is benefiting. Like, at least if you went middle or top or something like that, Matt, or tried to roam the jungle, one of those heroes would be a little bit more afraid. They wouldn't farm as well, and that'd be nice, but I don't think that there's anything happening right here. Cthulhu's going to find the stun in the middle lane onto Hellbringer, but Malphus is going to come out, and all of a sudden it's going to be Revenant who's in a lot of trouble, so that's a really nice counter kill. I don't think Hellbringer's going to survive this, but it was a little glorious. Nice play right there. Did drop the Malphus, of course. It's a pretty big cooldown to be using, but Got the kill, stayed alive, got the experience for it, and considering the gank that was being set up right there, that's not a bad play. Rotten Grasp will catch out Cthulhu as he's going for the refreshment rune, which will be picked up by Deadwood. Moira Illusion to come through though, and Shards of Harkon onto Cthulhu, plus the Obliterate being active. This should spell a kill onto Deadwood, especially with the Mana Sunder going through. A little bit more, no! He's going to be able to get out of there, and Deadwood will survive. Meanwhile, the top lane, Madman did fall to a combination of Parasite, Shadowblade, and Blitz. So the gank is successful. You can see the 2 Rev wards down here. That's... Thank you. Thank you, buddies. You can see 2 Rev wards down that are obviously helping out with the Madman's evasiveness, as that hero is extremely difficult to pin down. But if you get Rev wards, it becomes a lot easier. So, Squarey, all of a sudden, he's up to the 2nd highest farm in the game, as Ravener, in fact, in the bottom lane, has taken over the crown from Hellbringer, thanks to that death in the middle. And things, generally, I think, still continuing to look in the favor of Dawn, as if they can keep Shadowblade somewhere below about 400 GPM, I think they're going to be in a really good position, because once again, this is a single core lineup from Revolution, and they definitely have good farm on the Ravener and solid farm on the Madman, even after that death for a suicide, 231 gold per minute, and being level 6 already is not a bad performance at all. So, see how well Dawn transitions, but it seems like they've won the laning phase in all 3 games. The issue has basically just been wrapping the game up. In game 1, obviously, they took a few bad team fights, and that went very badly. K-Sug through onto the Madman. We'll see if they can get anybody out of this. Barrel roll goes through, but it's not going to matter. I don't think they're just going to chase him down as he's still revealed. Tulifant did charge in to try to save his buddy, and he will now activate the Dream of Madness, but this actually could result in a kill, as they're going to be able to chase a fair bit, but the trample away is going to be enough, as Blitz is really diving this, which was definitely not a good decision, considering he's completely out of mana now. Revenant is rotating over to try to pick off this kill, and I think Fizzmaestro is going to be in a lot of trouble, as he takes the dot and a couple auto attacks. That's going to be plenty to finish him off, and they also get an Illusion Rune, as that's pretty fortuitous timing right there. Double damage rune on Hellbringer, as he's looking for something, but he's going to get stunned out by the trample, even though he's double damaged. The Obliterate's there, the Moira's there as well, and the Harkon's Shards of Harkon is going to help him finish him off, as Labyrinth picks up a double tap. So, bad engagement right there for Revolution, as things continue to go in Dawn's favor. Despite the kill on the Madman, of course, they get the Blitz, and then they get the Hellbringer. Pretty nice series of events, and I think that one that they are willing to take, even losing their Suicide Hero. So we're approaching about 9-10 minutes into this game, and it's a relatively slight lead for Dawn at this point. 650 gold and 1100 experience. Not bad, but not great, and probably not as good as they'd like to be, but I think they're still in the better position, as I said before. Taking a look at the stuff that's been picked up so far, we do see the Strider's Parasite, which is fine. Not something I'm a huge fan of, but Striders are so cheap right now, it's still a reasonably effective item that it's definitely not bad. He looks like he's going to be going for the Abyssal Skull, which is an item I love on Parasite, actually. I think it's really, really effective. Not only because, well, generally getting an Abyssal Skull is a good idea, and they don't have too many options for it in this particular game. Bottom lane, Ravener are going to put the Ball Lightning in, and they're going to get this kill on the Hellbringer? No, they're not. Hellbringer will walk away. Tramples, oh, he's going to have to dodge the fucking Mock thing, and yeah, he's going to slow down with the Oak Bolt right there. All of a sudden, Cthulhu might be in some trouble. Demon Strike will miss, but the stun from Blitz is there, and that's going to be a finish with the Rotten Grasp, and Moira Illusion coming and trying to do something. Won't really be able to get anything accomplished as he gets picked off. And top lane, it's actually Madman who gets finished off, so let's go back and watch that. Why not? As Parasite comes in here, more dust, and that's going to be a pretty easy finish onto the Suicide Madman. So things were going Dawn's way once again, and a couple bad engagements as they managed to pick off the short lane farming Revenant, as well as the Suicide and a support and a jungler. Really the 3 biggest cores on this Legion side, or at least the ones who are doing the best, in a matter of seconds. And it looks like they're going to be able to catch the Hellbringer out right here. They're going to try to turn this onto somebody, but it's Fizzmaestro going to be falling on right off the bat. Invisibility Rune gets picked up by Moira, and Hellbringer's going to try to run away. The Rotten Grasp gets missed onto Moira. Shards of Harkon go through into Revenant. I think Deadwood could be in a fair bit of trouble right here, as, yeah, the damage output from those 2 heroes is just far too strong. Especially that Revenant right now can just hit so goddamn hard. He's going to pop the Essence Shroud, try to chase down Hellbringer, but that's not going to happen, as he's far too deep. And in the end, it's just going to be the 2 kills for Labyrinth and not the 3. So it's nice as they bring this back a little bit from where it was starting to teeter and return us to a more or less even game state, as Parasite just picked up a refreshing ornament, I believe. So we're perhaps looking at an Astrolabe. Yeah. So I'm not really sure what Parasite's planning to do in this game. He's got part of the build-up, of course, for a Abyssal Skull, and now it looks like he's going to go into an Astrolabe. Both of those are strong items and solid items on him, but I honestly would have preferred at least the Astrolabe on Hellbringer's middle lane Blitz to get caught out once again, so Fizz Maestro continuing to die a fair bit. There's a Falcon Punch onto Revenant. They also pop the Dust of Revelation so they can see him, and that's a counter kill. There's a legendary streak actually ended from Labyrinth, and all of a sudden Madman's in a fair bit of trouble as well. He probably got hit by the Dust, and we'll see if the clear cutting is enough to chase him down. He gets the stock on away, trying to go up and into the Hellborn Woods, and I think he'll be alright as the Dust of Revelation has worn off, so with bottle charges and the invisibility, he's going to be just fine. I don't know why that Deadwood threw the Rotten Grasp. I guess he figured it's not going to hurt anything if I just stick it somewhere. That's what he said. And in fact, it did not hurt anybody, which is probably not what he was looking for. Speaking of Abyssal Skulls, we'll be seeing one on Ravener, as he's already picked up a Thunderclaw, so got a farming item here, which is fine. Especially considering he is their primary carry on the Dawn side. I think it's a little bit greedy, but not horribly so. The only real problem I have with it is they have a Cthulhu jungling, so they haven't exactly been picking up stacks of the Ravener, and they haven't been doing a great job of stacking the Ancients. You see them being double stacked here for the first time in the game, and I feel like if he was going to go Thunderclaw, then that should have been communicated a little better to his team and been like, alright, well, if I'm going to go Thunderclaw, we need to have some stacks so that when I go into the jungle and start hitting things, it's going to be an effective item for me. I don't think with his current level of farm it is really the best thing, to be honest, mostly because like if you're farming crazy out of your mind and you can get it super quickly and your team can stack for you, it can really get you to the point where you're absolutely unstoppable. But he's by no means unstoppable at this point, and the Thunderclaw is not going to help make him much more so. So we'll see how it works out, but at this point, not a huge fan personally. I do like the Abyssal Skull quite a lot, again, because they have the other melee core in the Madman. And we'll be seeing a gank in this middle lane, of course, as there is no detection. And could be a lot of trouble here for Deadwood if Cthulhu can line up the stun. Revenant jumping forward, though, as if something's going on, and that really gave it away, as Deadwood's like, wait a minute, that seems a little bit fishy, why he'd be running up my hill if he didn't have backup. And since that Deadwood does not have backup, at least not until now, with the Hellbringer coming over, figured he would back off, which was the right move in the end, so nice presence of mind from Base Extractor. Looking at the other items, once again, Shadowblade has gone for a Thunderclaw, so we're seeing them on both sides on the primary carries. As the middle lane, it looks like Revenant could be in some trouble. Gets hit by the Rotten Grasp and the Punch, and that's going to be plenty of damage to take him out. Moira uses the Illusion, but far too late for her to do anything with that. Arcane Vortex could have done something for Revenant, but obviously by the time it came through, it just was not feasible. And it's a nice pop onto Labyrinth once again, as he basically died twice, then got 5 straight kills, and now has since died twice again. So nice streaky game for Labyrinth this time out. Let's see if he can start another stretch of domination. Send himself to 10-4. Hellbringer at this point probably has more than he's letting on, considering he's at 346 gold per minute and is currently just sitting on Steam Boots and Grave Locket and a bottle. I actually do like the Grave Locket pickup quite a lot. I think it's a pretty underrated item, especially if you can get the charges up. It's basically about half of a Blessed Orb for substantially less than half the cost. It's about a third of the price, but the stats that it gives you are pretty similar. And more importantly, obviously, it reduces your death timer. So if you're a hero that does not like to spend large stretches of time dead, then that item I think is for you. It does cost a reasonably valuable slot, and it is 725 gold, but I think in the end it's generally worth it on most fronts to be picked up a little bit more than it is, especially on core heroes, especially carries and stuff like that. That reduced death timer can really do a lot for you if you're a hard farming carry, I feel like. So we'll see how it works for STST here, but 2200 saved up on Shadowblade, as they're going to be triple stacking the Ancients here, so he should be by momentarily to finish them off, assuming that Deadwood and Hellbringer don't take them, but my guess is that they won't, especially considering they have a Thunderclaw on the Shadowblade. Parasite does finish off his Astrolabe, still sitting in the Ring of the Teacher, and I would like to see him finish the Abyssal Skull at some point, but he also wants a puzzle box. He hasn't started building at all, and we're now 15 minutes in, so to be honest, I'm not a huge fan of the Abyssal or the Astrolabe in this particular instance. As I said before, I think it would have been much better on Hellbringer. If they're going to group up and push, they need to, do it, and they haven't shown too much inclination to do that. So I don't know why you'd go the Astrolabe, especially this early. And we have a fun little thing where one hero is invisible, the other one's using a Veiled Rot. No crap, Hellbringer gets found. So uses the Malphus right there and the Demon Strike. Gonna try to stop Ravener from really doing much of anything, and they will, in fact, as the punch to the face takes him out. Hellbringer gets stunned out by the Shards of Harkon, though, and Moira should be able to finish him off right here. Two more auto attacks, and no, actually they can't. Arcane Vortex misses. Hellbringer now is going to try to get the hell on out of here. Madman, though, has actually chased down Revenant. Madman going to try to finish off Hellbringer, but he doesn't have it as he gets stunned out, pilfered, and killed. So things all of a sudden progressing very well in favor of the Hellborn team. Even Shadowblade has joined the party down here, as he did not see fit to do anything before this instance, and he has picked up a serial killer streak as they finish off the Moira, so really nothing she can do about that. But 4 heroes go down in favor of the Hellborn team. They also have Malphus to help push this tower, and that's a really, really big swing for the guys on Revolution. And all of a sudden, things looking a lot more like Game 1 than I think Dawn want them to, as a strong laning phase, not as good as it was in Game 1, has suddenly been starting to turn around. And Revolution looking like they're in full control of this game at this point, just under 17 minutes in and just under 6k gold, about 5k experience, which is pretty substantial at this point in the game, especially considering they weren't really winning too hard until this particular instance. And remember before when I was like, I think they should group up and push if they're going to get an Astrolabe? Well, it sounds like they're going to listen to me, so can't have too many complaints about that, and we'll see how Parasite chooses to itemize here. It looks like he will finish off the Abyssal Skull. And at this point, I would like to see him go for the Puzzle Box, because that's one more thing that the Abyssal Skull is going to help with. Is obviously the Puzzle Box smaller. It's going to regen some health, especially considering he doesn't regen health naturally when Parasite's inside of him. Now they can use the Lifesteal. Puzzle Box smaller being a melee hero, or a melee character, unit, whatever. And keep Parasite alive while in that creep. But we'll see how he chooses to go. So far, I've been generally surprised by his item decisions, and they've been fine. By no means have they been bad. Deadwood did pick up a portal key, of course. No huge surprise there, as you would expect it. Moira is probably working on one of her own. Has only 400 gold at this point, but it's a pretty huge item for her if she can get it. And I think that they are going to try to give her the space that she needs to at least get it within the next 10 minutes or so, as that would prove extremely useful, I believe. Speaking of other items, Whistle was finished on Ravenor. Cthulhu has picked up a portal key of his own, so both teams getting portal keys on their strength initiators, which is what they're looking for. The real difference is Deadwood's obviously more of a single pick-off gank hero, while Cthulhu's like, I'm going to stun 3 people with mine if I possibly can. In many instances he can, so Legion side perhaps a little more willing to take team fights now that they know that Malphus is down, but Malphus is actually not down. I lied. So maybe not willing to take team fights, especially because in general their team fight is not that strong. The Hellborns isn't either, but I think it's really going to depend on Malphus. If Malphus is up, it's the Hellborn's advantage. If Malphus is not up, it's the Legion's advantage. And that's probably a little unfair to say because it's an ultimate and a pretty huge one at that, so obviously it's going to make a big difference. Speaking of Malphus, coming out onto 2 heroes right here, looks like we're going to be in a lot of trouble as Revenant already gets picked up, but Revenant to turn this onto the Deadwood doesn't matter. He eventually still dies. Cthulhu now trying to run away as he does not get caught up by the Arcane Vortex, but Parasite picking up, it's Hellbird picking up a hat trick, and Parasite was not caught by the Arcane Vortex. Moira looking for the ultimate to save her buddies there, and it does not really work out the way that they were hoping it would. And it looks like this is going to be another tower push here in the middle lane, so all of a sudden we got the second tier 2 tower dead. The only one that's remaining is in the top lane. Wouldn't be surprised to see that one go down in the next couple of minutes as well, as the Legion side continuously gets decimated in these larger engagements. But it seems like that's mostly because the aggression is coming in from the Hellborn team. Legion side playing so reactive, and they sort of have to, because unless Cthulhu and Revenant, I suppose, are going to make shit happen, then they're not going to be starting these team fights. And, well, I think if you do start team fights, you get a substantial advantage because other teams obviously put on the defensive very quickly, and you can, in many cases, pick a hero off before they can do anything. And that means that there are spells that effectively don't matter. So we'll see if the Legion side can do a little bit more to fight things back. But I think the other thing that this comes down to is the Thunderclaw choice on the Ravener. That's 2,500 gold right there that's been used, and that would basically be the difference right now between him and a Frostburn if he had that money back. And his 400 GPM is by no means insurmountable, or an insurmountable quantity to achieve if he does not have the farming tool of the Thunderclaw. So I really don't think it's affected him too much positively, and I don't think it's really doing a lot in these team fights. So still really got to question that pickup, as the Legion side looked for something, a pick off perhaps, in the Hellborn Woods, but it doesn't look like they're going to find one, as they've vacated. Really, the vision for the Hellborn side is pretty lacking. We see 2 Rev wards in the middle lane, and in the bottom we see 2 more. And there's also a ward of sight here that I don't think was placed correctly, and I don't think that one was either. Maybe it was, I don't know, but there's 2 of them right next to each other, so it's pretty clear that something went wrong right there, and Fizzmaestro may be missing his placement on that ward. Either way, it's pretty much the only vision that the Hellborn side has, so it's pretty impressive that they've not been picked off more than they have, considering they've got a Revenant on one side, and obviously a Madman would help. Moira is very good at that, and Cthulhu with the Portal Key, also a generally aggressive hero. So, nice map awareness, and that's contributing mightily to their advantage at this point on the Revolution side. The Legion team going to get a little bit aggressive here with a ward in the Hellborn Woods, as they want to try to catch people out if they can. I think they're really banking a lot on this ganking train. Revenant leading the way, and the other heroes providing assistance mostly with lockdown. But once again, they don't find anybody, as Kongor looks like it's going to be the one attempted, and that's going to be Token of Life onto Shadowblade. And that could be the cue to push down the last outer tower. As we see the heroes more or less rotating over there. Of course, Malphus is back up once again, and that's going to allow them to ideally take a team fight in the manner of the last 2 team fights, which both worked out fabulously. So that could be that. Could be the decision to push middle lane, as Moira's barely going to skirt on by a couple of heroes that could absolutely kill her, and do so very quickly if they were so inclined. By the way, Parasite going to pick up a Soul's Bulwark here, which is an item, again, I absolutely love. So choosing to pass up the puzzle box entirely in this game, which is, I'm not a huge fan of that. I think I would have replaced the Astrolabe with the puzzle box and had Hellbringer get the Astrolabe instead of what he's building right now, which appears to be the Restoration Stone. As they will find Madman right there, as they put down a ward of Rev. They even use the Malphus, and that's just a Moira illusion, though, so the Arcane Vortex will catch a couple of heroes, but not really going to do very much in the end. Cthulhu going to get a stun onto 1 and 2, but now he's in a dangerous position. That was a bit iffy. Rav going to jump on the ball landing as well. It doesn't matter, though. He's going to get picked off, destroyed, and Cthulhu will as well. Revenant now trying to run away with the Rotten Grasp will catch him. It's another kill. Moira getting hit by the Fear, and all of a sudden there's the Leech. A couple more auto attacks will be enough to kill her. She still has the dot on her. The Shards of Archon not really doing too much. Now they're starting to turn this a little bit as Blitz falls, but there goes Revenant once again with the buyback, still going to die. Shadowblade finally gets picked off, uses the token right here. In the meantime, Parasite also did fall, so the Hellborn team feels like it is substantially ahead. Deadwood might be in a little bit of trouble as he tries to get out of there and is blocked a little bit. Revenant can be chased down. The Rotten Grasp though going to hit a couple of heroes, and that's going to be Revenant's death once again, as well as Moira's. So buybacks all over the place, and it's going to be a lot of deaths. So despite the only using the token and 2 heroes falling on the Hellborn side, they get a whopping 10 kills out of that, as well as 5 buybacks. So that's mid-racks. It's probably not going to be bot racks. I don't think they don't really have the wave there to help them out, and I don't know if they want to go and tank all that tower damage. It might be a top tier 2 tower though, as it looks like they're possibly rotating up there. Either way, a pretty fantastic fight for them. It's hard to imagine that going any better than it did. I mean, they just kept coming in, and they kept coming in. It was just like, all right, we'll kill you repeatedly. We're fine with that if you want to let us do it. So Moira will protect the tower with her illusion. That's probably not worth backing off, as her Arcane Vortex just came back online. But they may not have known that, so figuring it's not worth it to get caught just for a tier 2 tower that they can at this point take down relatively easily, considering how Dawn must feel about their chances, considering they just got thoroughly spanked. And in general, I think I'd be a little bit worried if I were them. Shadowblade having finished the Dawnbringer at this point, sitting at 633 gold per minute, and this is, basically no-lose territory for Shadowblade as far as money goes. He's got enough cash to buy almost anything he wants, on top of the fact that he's already got a Thunderclaw and a Dawnbringer. Trying to combine those 2 words, and it doesn't work very well. So he's looking like he's going to be extremely beefy, extremely hard to deal with, and that got to credit Parasite, I think, with a lot of this. I mean, he's just gone hard aura builds here. He's got the Abyssal Skull, he's got the Astrolabe, and he now has the Demonic Breastplate, as we just saw him finish that off. So the assistance that that's providing Shadowblade, I think, can't be underestimated. And I said, I'm not a huge fan of this build, and I think I would have preferred the Puzzle Box over the Astrolabe, but that's mostly because, again, I think the Hellbringer could have gotten the Astrolabe, so you still have it. You just put it on a different hero, because the addition of the Puzzle Box, I think, would have been a bit of a game changer. It's possible the Parasite doesn't die in that last fight if he has a Puzzle Box, just because he maybe has something to infest, or, you know, maybe it doesn't have damage that whatever killed him would have died first. And right now, Hellbringer's path to the Restoration Stone's not doing too much, so it's hard to find much fault really in this in Revolution's game so far, so I don't want to harp on it too much, but maybe not as optimal as it could have been. Either way, it's definitely working well, as they had 26 kills in 26 minutes, and that's pretty solid pace, as my evaluation. Top lane, though, looks like Parasite could actually be in some trouble, and he will fall. Blitz trying to save him, but it's 5 heroes here for the Legion side, so it's not like he's going to be able to do too much against that 1v5 lineup. He's not exactly that type of hero, much less that type of role, considering he is the hard support in this game. And worth pointing out, you know, he's only got 4 deaths. He has no kills and 10 assists, so he's been having a solid game. I was worried, as I said in the beginning, that he would be dying a fair bit. He's obviously died more than anybody else in this team, but he's the support again, so that's not particularly surprising. And in general, I think you got to look at the lack of dying on the Hellborn side and compliment them for that. You look at the Legion, we got 8 deaths on a Revenant and 6 deaths on a Madman, and that might be... Those two things might be related. I mean, those are 2 heroes that rely heavily on invisibility. And you've seen the Hellborn team repeatedly buying Dust, repeatedly buying Wards of Rev, doing everything they can to deal with that. And that's the type of situation, I think, where you realize the negative gains of having multiple Invis heroes. Positive gains are stuff like portal keys, where, you know, 1 hero getting a portal key is good, 2 heroes getting a portal key is better than each hero individually. The addition of each hero having a portal key individually. Like, you know, if Cthulhu having one is +5 and Deadwood having one is +5, then you put them together and it's not +10, it's like +12 because they both can jump people. And you see the opposite of that here, and once again, they just know exactly what they're doing. Shrunken Head going to have to be popped right now by Madman. It will be slowed down by the Lightning Shackles, though, and he's going to be in a lot of trouble having used that Shrunken Head. Pretty easy kill as the punch finishes him off. And you see the 2 Rev Wards and a Dust of Revelation and a Bound Eye. So they're doing so much here to counter this invisibility because they realize how Legion is dependent on it. They have the Revenant and they have the Madman, and that's a situation where, you know, if Revenant's Invis is +5 and Madman's Invis is +5, you take them together, it's +8. Because they're going to hurt each other, they're going to encourage the other team to buy Revelation, and that's what we're seeing, basically, is just the Hellborn team has done a fantastic job of dealing with the potential for those heroes to get in and out of team fights, and they're just not allowing them, essentially, to do anything about it. And commendable, I would say. Arcane Vortex right here is going to miss pretty much everybody. Illusion will get popped into it, and the Shards of Argon are going to hit a couple of heroes, but it's not going to do too much, as the Legion side are actually trying to push in bottom lane and doing a good job of it. They're killing the tower. They're basically trading bases right here, although I'm not sure if that's going to be the best thing for them, because they're not going to get this top lane as 2 Malthuses come out, and Revenant just gets destroyed by it. Looks like Ravener is going to be able to hit the ball lightning onto Hellbringer, but that's going to result in his death. So that wasn't a great decision. Meanwhile, in the Legion base, everybody's getting destroyed as we're seeing another lane get pushed here in the bottom lane. Ravener does buy back for the 2nd time. That's going to be a kill on the Blitz, but probably not worth it if he goes down a 2nd time. And Revenant with his 2nd buyback also going to fall. And we're going to see a CC vote right here. They're out of heroes and they're out of buybacks. Very nice performance, I think, right there from Revolution. I think you have to give them a lot of credit for how they handled that. Most impressively because they played against their opponent's lineup extremely well. And that's not something that you necessarily see all the time. Well, a lot of the time when we see a team win, they do it because they executed their lineup very well. And I think you can also say that's true of Revolution in this particular game. But more importantly, they saw what their enemies were looking to do, and they basically just stopped it. And that's hard because it requires, you know, adaptability, and it requires you to be able to predict what your opponent's objectives are, and it requires you to adjust to them making adjustments to you. So if the Legion side, you know, says, oh, this invis thing isn't let's try something out, or something else out, you have to realize, okay, they're changing their strategy in the middle of the game, we need to change ours to react to that. So I think pretty much any way you can look at it, that's a very nice game and an extremely positive and fulfilling caption or capstone, something like that. I don't know, it's maybe the word I'm looking for, I don't know, to the series for Revolution, because that's a good team that they just took down, not full of at least, but having several well-known players, and one that was perhaps expected to go to Diamond Division in the first cycle of Season 4, and that won't be happening now, as Revolution knocked them out in the losers bracket, and Revolution going to continue on now and get their own shot at Diamond. They will have to win a couple more series to be able to do that, but if they can play anything like that, then I think they have a solid shot, as much as anybody in the losers bracket, and I'm excited to see what they can bring in Season 4, if not in Diamond, then in Gold Division, which, of course, I will be doing a lot of coverage of, as usual. So I'm liking it. I'm liking seeing the new talent, and I'm liking seeing the really good team play, too, because that's the hardest thing to pull off, I think. It's not being individually skilled. There's plenty of players who are good on their own, but what really makes one of these top-tier teams is when they can bring it together and become more than the sum of their parts, much like a bunch of portal keys. Either way, that's going to do it for this series, so thanks for watching, guys, and congrats to REV0 for moving on. Better luck next time, Don. You will be heading to Gold Division, so could still make it back, and I would be surprised if we did not see Don in Diamond Division at some point during the season, and possibly for an extended period of time. So either way, nice series from both teams, and just an entertaining one to watch. So I forget who made the recommendation, but thank you for doing so. It definitely was worth the time, and thanks for watching once again. We'll see you in the next one.